Once again, we find ourselves staring in the face of a phenomenon that seems to happen quite a lot in World of Warships Legends. We're not playing a full 9v9 game. Instead, we've got a 6v6, and all the players are PlayStation players. I suspect that's because somebody turned off the crossplay feature, and we've speculated before on this channel reasons why somebody might do that. I think it's because they think with fewer ships in a game, they are going to be able to have an outsized influence on the match. And to some extent, that is very true. If there are fewer ships in the game overall, then every single individual player has a bigger opportunity to have more of an influence on the outcome of a battle, and you're going to see that in this battle. We're playing the Tier 8 Pan-European destroyer Småland with a torpedo-focused build, actually, even though it's quite a good gunboat, and you're going to see the efficacy of that torpedo build now. But take a look at those shells flying across the screen from behind that island off toward the right. When we spawned here near the Bravo Cap, we were initially thinking of entering it, but a couple things are preventing us from doing that. Number one, there's a Yamato over there spotted. Number two, there's a minnow in a smoke screen. If we push into that cap and get spotted, likely we're going to get shot by that Yamato and minnow, and we don't want to lose all our HP in the first couple of minutes. Plus, those shots from behind this island here indicate that something unspotted is probably lurking behind it, and as the destroyer, it is our primary job to gather intelligence data, so we're going to sail around this corner with the hopes of gathering some of that data, and we do. We reveal a Yamato that was initially unspotted. Now we have him spotted, and hopefully our teammates are going to be able to shoot at him. Meanwhile, our friendly Shimakaze is about to enter the Bravo Cap and demonstrate to us exactly why we avoided doing that. It is true that it is the destroyer's job to play the objectives, but that doesn't mean you have to push into the objective within the first 5 minutes. Oftentimes, doing so will result in your early return to port, and that's what's going to happen to the Shima. Plus, now that we've revealed this Yamato, and he's turned out, ostensibly, I think, because he doesn't realize a destroyer is out here spotting him, even though he should. We're the only things that possibly could be spotting him. We're able to launch a bunch of our torpedoes into his broadside. We get 5 hits there. Note, it only does 40,000 damage, and that is the gimmick of these pan-European destroyers. I think it's the reason a lot of people seem to think these torpedoes are bad. Far from it, though, they're excellent. They travel at 90 knots in the water when you build for them, which is very fast. The fastest torpedoes in the game, in fact. Now, they don't individually hit for a whole ton of damage, and when they make contact with something like the Yamato, which has ridiculous torpedo damage reduction, I think near 50%, then they really don't do a lot of damage individually, but they reload in about 73 seconds with this torpedo-focused build, so you can send more out pretty much immediately. Oh, and what do you know, our Shimakaze is deceased. He was spotted by this Yugumo and shot at by the Yugumo and the Yugumo's teammates as he was spotted inside the cap, which just shows exactly why we didn't enter the cap when we did. Now the Yugumo, of course, he doesn't know we're here, so he's decided it's a good idea to YOLO this Iwami, but we're here to stop him, and honestly, it doesn't really look like the Iwami really needed our help. The Iwami ends up actually taking out the Yugumo, which I believe is his first kill of the game, and take note of that, because at the end of this game, he's gonna have 4 more kills to his name, and we're gonna help him do it. Here's his second kill, by the way, the Yamato that was pushing around this corner that we spotted for him long ago, so he knew he was coming. Yamato didn't appear to know the Iwami is there. He gave him flat broadside, and well, now he's returning to port. That's 2 enemy ships down for the sacrifice of our Shimakaze, but that's okay, because Shimakazes and IJN torpedo boats, I know that the community seems to think they're the scariest things in the world, but I, these days, don't tend to take them seriously as threats, because out of all destroyers, I think IJN torpedo boats are by far the worst played destroyers in this game. No offense to the enemy Yugumo and the friendly Shima, they just have done what so many IJN destroyers before them have done, which is sink in the first 5 minutes. But that's okay. We're still alive. Unfortunately, the enemy team still does have one destroyer, and that destroyer has apparently flipped the Charlie cap. But it's fine. The Bravo cap is unclaimed, and now, 5 minutes into the game, we're about to enter it and flip it with zero opposition. Although there is a Minotaur lurking around here somewhere, which is a little bit of a concern because ultimately we don't know where the final red destroyer is. He very well could be coming back this way, and if he spots us and the minnow is in some sort of position to shoot at us, we might be in trouble due to our lack of smokescreen and limited ability to disengage. But we do need to try to take the cap. The point situation is very close, and the enemy team has just sunk a battleship, so we're pretty even in terms of kills. It's now 4v4. Torpedoes we launched at the Yamato earlier on are going to end up being lucrative. You can see that he was taking some fire from the friendly Wooster, another key player in this game, actually. The Wooster is going to do very well at the end of proceedings here, too. But the Wooster has lit the Yamato on fire at least once or twice, and the Yamato's DCP is on cooldown because when that torpedo, or when those two torpedoes hit and cause a flood at 64,000 damage done, well, that Yamato is not going to be able to stop the flood. It's going to tick for, I think, the full duration, which is going to yield us quite a bit of damage. And this is kind of a common thing, I think, in these pan-European torpedoes. This is not the first time I've done a perma-flood with the Småland's torps, and I doubt it'll be the last. They are very good, it seems, at causing flooding, and they reload so quickly and travel through the water so fast that you can just be sending them out practically every minute. So if somebody's under sustained HE spam, and one of these torpedoes hits them and causes a flood, well, they might be in trouble like this Yamato. But our eyes have been on the Marbra this entire time because he's been in this Charlie cap. He's pushing forward toward our teammates in Alpha, who, by the way, have spotted the Shimakaze inside of the Alpha cap and are going to be dealing with him now. We aren't actually going to get to deal with that destroyer. I don't know how he got spotted by two battleships without radar, but he did, and they're going to take him out. In fact, I think our Iwami friend is going to take him out. Meanwhile, the Marbra has decided he's going to push forward, which is inadvisable. He should have seen the Bravo capture circle turning red, and that should indicate to him that that capture circle is hot and contains a destroyer and therefore a torpedo threat. But I think he's laser focused on killing my battleship teammates, so he's not paying attention. And these torpedoes, while they don't hit individually for very hard, against something with less torpedo damage reduction than the Yamato, 7 is enough for a dev strike on a nearly full health Marbra. That just leaves the Yamato and the Minotaur left, and we know the Yamato was last spotted over here, so we're going to have him all to ourselves. We're going to be able to torture this Yamato with the power of pan-European destroyer torpedoes. And we're going to be able to take the cap. The two battleships on my team managed to take out the Shima, so we're the last destroyer left alive. We've basically got control of this game, and even though the points are close, the enemy really shouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning, especially since that Minotaur, in order to do any damage whatsoever, is going to have to spot our last two remaining battleship teammates with his face. So that should give them a chance to fire at him in return and sink him. Although the Minotaur is going to do very well for himself. There you see he gets the high caliber as we take the Charlie cap, and I think he's actually going to end up sinking one of those two battleships. Not the Iwami, though. Meanwhile, our torpedoes once again make contact with the Yamato. This time we get 2, and we get 2 floods, bringing us up to 175,000 damage done. And remember, this game is not a full 9v9. This was a 6v6, and all this damage has come courtesy of essentially 2 battleships, with a couple shell hits on a destroyer. We did 6 shells, so all of this damage is coming from the torps. Yamato, I guess, well, He figures he's got to do something, so he's going to push in. And here we're going to engage in some sort of destroyer mind games. At this point, the Yamato should know we're here because we're spotting him. But if we go behind this rock, we're going to break line of sight. We're no longer going to see him. And the idea is he might feel safe and continue pushing forward and take all of those torpedoes. That's not quite what happens, but what happens instead is equally as useful. When the Yamato goes unspotted, he feels safe enough to do a full gamer turn, which turns him broadside in front of the guns of our last remaining battleship, the friendly Iwami. And so when we come around this island again and reacquire vision on him, well, it's too late for him to angle against the Iwami. He takes a huge chunk of damage there. Mind games, as far as spotting in the destroyer goes, paying dividends. The Yamato is nearly dead. We're going to launch torpedoes at him as he appears to be angling his bow toward the Iwami in hopes that it will save him, and maybe it would. If the Iwami's shells didn't kill him there, the torpedoes certainly would have. So that just leaves the Minotaur left. And here we done 175,000 damage in our Tier 8 destroyer and solo flipped 2 caps in the course of about 11 minutes. That, along with the Iwami's help and the Wooster's DPM, I would say is a carry between the 3 of us. All you need in a game like this is 3 semi-competent players to play the objectives and do things correctly. And you can pull off a pretty impressive win when the ship count is limited like this. So if you're the kind of person who struggles in standard battles and you think that your results are going to be improved if you turn off matchmaking and therefore facilitate lower ship count matches like this, if you think that's going to help you, I invite you to think again. Maybe stop doing that, because while sometimes it does give me ammunition to put up interesting games on YouTube like this, and hopefully this game is interesting, let me know what you think in the comments. But even though it does that, it's annoying most of the time, and we do in fact have training rooms now, where you can set up a room with some of your friends, or just set up a random room and let randoms join it, and then play against each other with no penalty, no loss of credits, nothing like that. You can just practice your skills and get better. You don't have to turn off the matchmaking in order to try to get better games. Just use training rooms and practice, unless of course your goal is to grind, I don't know, more resources or credits, but if that is your goal, you certainly shouldn't be playing at Tier 8. In any case, the Minotaur is actually a Chad. You see, he's got almost no HP left, and he's done a damn good job of nearly whittling down that Iwami, but it's the Iwami that gets the last laugh, and the Kraken unleashed with the kill on the Minotaur. So the pair of us, the Iwami, myself, and even the Wooster, who came in second, do a really good job of carrying this game to victory. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it gave you a little bit to think about in terms of good, solid destroyer play. And if you think the Småland is not a very good torpedo boat, well, think again. Here's your evidence. Give the video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.